Good day, culinarians. Today we'll be talking about soups. We'll be on chapter 10 in your book, Soups. Keep in mind, take notes. If you have any questions as I go through this lecture, just either highlight in the book or take your notes. If you have any questions, email me, or when you come into class, ask me questions in class. I'll try to answer them best I can. Your test should be tests on the soup chapter. What I've done here, and make sure, like all your tests, save your tests, because your tests are going to be your study guide for your final. Taking all the questions for the final off these tests. So save your tests; they're going to be your study guide for your final. So chapter 10, soups. We're going to get into soups right away here. Soups, basically. Soups are stocks with this thickening agent. A lot of soups come from stocks. So use thickening agents such as roux or liaison to tighten up your soups. Page 231. In a sauce making basic technique or building stocks, you can use to create a wide variety of soups. So pretty much, if you know how to do your stocks, you can make any kind of soup. Page 232, classification of soups. You have clear soups, vegetable soups, consommes. Clear soups, of course, like the word entails, it's clear soup. You make your chicken stock. You take some vegetables, dice up some carrots, onions, celery, throw it in there, throw some pieces of chicken in there. You have your basic chicken soup. It's a clear soup. Vegetable soup. Keep in mind, if you're doing a vegetable soup, a lot of times it can be clear. If there's not clear, it's probably because you put a lot of tomato or something in there to make it a little bit more cloudier. But vegetable soups, keep in mind, vegetable soups are made from vegetables. A lot of restaurants, a lot of chefs I talk to, they have vegetable soup on the menu today. It's great vegetable soup. What kind of stock did you use? Well, I used chicken stock. Well, if you're using chicken stock, it's not a vegetable soup now. So if you're making vegetable soup, make sure you start out with a vegetable stock to make vegetable soup. Consommes. Consomme is basically you're taking your stock. Traditionally, you take a beef stock, and we'll get into making a consomme a little bit later in this chapter. But consomme, you're basically pulling all the impurities out of that stock and making it clear. Bottom page 232, thick soups. You got cream soups, puree soups, bisques, chowders, are your different types of thick soups. Cream soups usually have some sort of milk or dairy product in there to make it a cream soup. Similar to a velouté or bechamel. Okay, what's bechamel? Bechamel is just basically dairy product thickened with a roux. Velouté, basically some sort of a light stock, a chicken or veal stock, thickened up. So those would be the cream soups. Pureed soups, usually with the pureed soups, you have some sort of starchy ingredient, you puree it up, and you make that makes the soup a little bit thick. Those would be the pureed soups, such as vichyssoise or a nice potato soup. Bisques, traditionally like cream soup made from shellfish. Chowders, traditionally chowders are made from fresh fish, shellfish, and traditionally chowders have a lot of vegetables in there. Pros and cons about chowders. My belief is chowder has some sort of potato product in there. You got page 233, specialty soups and national soups, such as French onion soup or borscht soup, a beet soup from Russia. French onion soup, of course, French. Bottom page 233, services soups. You know, if you're going to serve soup and appetizers, 6 to 8 ounces. Main course is usually 10 to 12 ounce portion. Temperature of soup. Remember, if you're going to be serving soup, serve hot food. Serve hot soup hot, and cold soup cold. Okay. So if you're going to serve hot soup, make sure the bowls or cups are warm or hot. If you're going to serve cold soup, I'd keep your cups or bowls in the refrigerator or freezer to keep them cold, so when you put your cold soup in there, it stays cold. Holding for service. Make sure you don't overcook your meats and product that are in there. Vegetables, just because you make a really good batch of soup early in the morning, and it's fantastic for lunch. A lot of times you save that soup over for dinner time. What happens to those vegetables? Well, they've been sitting now for a good 8 to 10 hours, and they might not be as firm or as crisp, as flavorful as they were at 11 or 12 o'clock earlier that day. So be careful about holding soups for too long a period of time. Garnishes of soups. Soup garnishes are divided in 3 categories for garnishes. Garnishes of soup such as vegetables for clear soup. If you're making a consommé, the clear soup for a consommé. Sometimes you might want to put in some brunoise, cuts of carrots for your garnish in there. Toppings. A lot of times if you're going to make like a cream of tomato basil soup, that topping on that you put on there could be a Parmesan crusted crouton, put it floating on top of there. Accompaniments. Third one is accompaniments. If you're doing a tortilla soup, chicken tortilla soup, the accompaniments on there might be some tortilla chips or shredded tortilla chips, something that goes with that soup. Page 234 and 235, they talk about clear soups and broths. On page 232, they get into broth, beef broths. You're going to notice in this chapter there's going to be a lot of recipes in here for soup. So if you're a soup lover and you enjoy soup like I do, there's tons of recipes in here to play with. Page 236, we get into consommé, making consommé. Consommé, defined consommé is clear stock broth. Usually consommé is a complete or concentrated product. So if you're going to make consommé, you're going to take a beef consommé, you're going to take beef stock, okay? Once you fortify it with the meat products and vegetables in there and you reduce it down, you're going to concentrate that flavor. Number one rule, preparing consommé from stock, make sure you use a rich and strong stock. Because once you start out with a rich and strong stock, when you go to reduce down and make it, it's going to make it even more flavorful. So you want that strong stock to start with. Basic ingredients to make consommé: lean ground meat, egg whites, mirepoix, and some sort of acid in there. So if you're going to make a beef consommé, you have your rich stock, your rich beef stock. Then you're going to take some lean ground meat, mix that together with some egg whites, save some egg whites. Add your mirepoix, onions, carrots, celery. You want to cut those pieces up very fine, very small. Mix it all together. Once you get done mixing all that together, it's almost going to look like meatloaf, except you don't have the breading in there to help bind it, hold it together. So it's going to kind of look like a meatloaf. You take that product and you mix it in with some cold beef stock. Remember, whenever you're making consommé, you want to make sure that stock you start out with is cold, okay? So you can't make stock, drain it, and then make consommé right away. What you got to do is make your stock, drain it, chill it down. Once it's cold, then you can go back and make your consommé with it. Always have to start out by making consommé with cold stock. So you mix all that stuff together, page 237, if you look at the picture at the bottom there. Once you mix all that stuff together, you put it on the stove, start cooking it. What's going to form is what's called a raft. A raft is going to form. That's where the meat and the egg whites and vegetables, they're all going to come together and they're going to form a raft and float to the top of that consommé. Once that raft forms and floats to the top, you're going to turn that temperature down, put it at a nice simmer, and just let it simmer for a couple hours. Once it simmers for a couple hours, you're going to drain all that consommé off, and you're going to have a good, rich consommé. On page 237, you can see that putting the soup together, how it's separating, and that raft forming at the top of the consommé. Page 238 is recipe there for consomme. I'm going to see if I think I dropped a recipe for consomme on the Moodle site. Page 239, different types of consomme, double consomme, chicken consomme, gelled consomme. Since that the consomme starts out with a good stock, usually good rich beef stock, you're going to have that gelatination from the bone marrow in that beef stock. So what a lot of chefs do is they'll gelatinize their consomme. They'll make their consomme, and what they'll do is they'll cool it down in little ice cube trays, and then when it comes out for an order, they'll take one of those little cubes, put it in a little bowl, and have a gelatinized consomme out for the guest. Page 239, they talk about different types of consomme there. Like I said, double consomme, chicken consomme, cool gel consomme. Page 240, get into vegetable soups. Clear vegetable soups come from clear stock or broth. Remember the difference between broth and stock. Stock is made with bones. Broth is usually made with some sort of meat product. Preparing vegetable soups. Select vegetables that go well together. A lot of times people make vegetable soup and just throw in anything in there, which is okay to some point. A lot of times you'll throw in stuff, it's like, these vegetables don't go together. So you gotta be careful if you're making vegetable soup. Make sure all the vegetables go together. They all complement each other. Page 241, get into the recipe there for a clear vegetable soup. Page 242, 243, get into different types of soups there, oxtail soup. Page 245, get into classic cream soups. When you're making a cream soup, one of the things you gotta watch out for is curdling or separating of the soup product. With the curdling of it, be careful with the soups containing milk and cream. For the if you cook them too high and cook them too much, that soup's going to curdle or separate. And what that means is the fats and stuff are going to separate from that soup product. Do not combine milk and stock together without first making sure they're the same temperature. So if you have really hot chicken broth and you want to add that cream to it, if that chicken broth is too hot, you throw that cream in there or that milk in there, it's going to separate, it's going to curdle. So you got to make sure they're close to the same temperature before you start combining them. A lot of times what I'll do is if I'm making a cream soup, I'll add milk and heavy cream together. Heavy cream will hold up a little bit more, and heavy cream has less chance of curdling on you. So adding those two together, when you put your cream soup in there, it makes it a little bit easier. Taste, make sure you taste everything. When you're making soups, make sure you taste it. Taste. Got all these tasting spoons, make sure you taste everything. 246, 247, get into more recipes. Like I said, this chapter has tons of recipes in there for soup, and they're all really good recipes in here for the soup. Page 251, get into parade soups, different techniques of parade soups. Parade soups are made from simmering dried fresh vegetables, high in starch. You simmer them together. A lot of times what you do is you put them through a puree or Roboku or something like that to get them all mushed together. Food mill, put them through a food mill to help put them together. Page 252, 253, more soup recipes. You got tons of soup recipes in here. Going over to page 256, 257, you get into to bisques. On 256, you'll see a classic way to serve soup. They have a picture of here of chilled leek potato soup with shrimp and fennel salad. A lot of places what they'll do is if you order a shrimp bisque, okay, the bowl will come out to you, a hot bowl will come out to you, it'll have the shrimp presented inside the bowl, and what the server will do is the server will ladle that bisque right on top of the shrimp. That way you get a presentation going on right in front of the guest with the ladling of the bisque soup right in front of the guests, just like they have in the picture. They have that shrimp and the fennel salad set up in the bowl, and the server would come out and ladle that chilled leek soup or potato soup on top of there. To make a bisque, typically a bisque, page 257 at the top, bisque contains cream made with shellfish. Traditionally, bisque is shellfish, made from shellfish. There's a lot of terms out there for now. You know, a lot of chefs use, have vegetable bisque, chicken bisque, and all kinds of different names for bisque, but bisque basically is made from shellfish. Okay, page 257, they show, with the shrimp shells and the stock, and put them together, and put them through a cheesecloth, pull all that juice out of there. Page 258, they have a shrimp bisque. Another way they're showing how to do the shrimp bisque, there you have your shrimp and your carrots in the bowl, goes out for presentation, and the server will come out and pour the bisque right on top of there. 259, get into chowders. Okay, when you're doing chowders are chunky, hearty soups full. They're almost like a stew. If you make a really good hearty chowder, it's almost like a stew. Chowders typically cream or puree. There are some chowders that aren't cream and puree. For instance, you got New England clam chowder. It's a cream-based chowder. Then you got Manhattan clam chowder, which is a clear broth-based chowder with lots of tomatoes in there. It's a red chowder. So chowders come in different forms. Page 261, they have a recipe here for a French soup au gratin, gratine. Page 262, 623, more soups going on here, tons of soup in here. They got 264 has a really good gumbo soup on here. Then you get into in national soups, you get tortilla soup. Page 266, 267, you get the pho Vietnamese soup, which is very good. Gazpacho soup, traditional cold summer soup. Okay, mix it in tomatoes, cucumbers, onions, mix that all together. You pray it up. You serve it nice and cold. Okay, got tomatoes, cucumbers, onions, peppers, garlic, breadcrumbs, water, tomato juice, olive oil, cayenne pepper, lemon juice, or vinegar. A lot of good flavors going on there. Excellent summer soup. Minestrone soup, 269, one of my favorite soups. So in this chapter, there's tons of soup. It's getting towards winter time. You guys want to play around with some soups? A lot of great recipes in here for soups. Okay, that's the end of chapter 10 on soups. Any questions? Please write down your questions. Email me or bring them to class and try to answer them in class. Okay, thank you very much.